So the coffee cup quilt block has a template printable, so you can print this off as a PDF or upload it to your Cricut Maker software and cut it out on your Cricut. I'm going to show you how to cut them by hand. So this pattern has 3 pages. You'll print them out, and here's the layout for the coffee cup quilt block. The side over here, the left side, 2, 5, and 8 are actually mirror image of 4, 7, and 10. So I actually didn't use these. I just cut 2, 5, and 8 on a fold to get 2 mirror image pieces. So if you're using a one-sided fabric, that matters more than if you're using solids. But just so you know, you can just omit those and cut 2, 5, and 8 on a double 2 layers of fabric. So then template number 9 should be cut from the color that you want your cup to be. This is the cup part, and I cut it red. I'm doing a red cup, like a Christmas quilt with kind of that Starbucks red cup feel. So that is right here, and then templates 3 and 6 make up the lid of the coffee cup. So I used a Christmas fabric, mistletoe fabric for that. A lighter fabric like white or cream always kind of looks like the coffee cup, but you can really do whatever you want for those. And then we're going to put template 2 and 4 here. So these templates have very slight angles. You will see this very slight angles, but we want to maintain those angles because that really gives the coffee cup that perfect coffee cup shape. So keep that in mind when you're sewing. Okay, so here is, and then number 1 is at the top. So when I'm sewing a quilt block like this, I always like to lay it out how it's going to end up, just like that. So I'm going to start my iron because we're going to use that. And I'll take all the template pieces out of the way. So if you're going to make the whole quilt, there's 20 blocks required. So I definitely recommend printing your templates on cardstock if possible. And that way they'll just last a little longer and be a little more precise. Okay, so to start out, we're going to sew all 3 of these rows together as a row. And we'll start with the coffee cup. So just make sure when you're pinning them together, you're maintaining that angle. So we're going to pin these and sew them. So we're going to sew each of the rows together, and then I'll show you how to press the seam allowances to get a really crisp block. Okay, so that one goes together pretty easily. For the lid pieces, it is easy to just kind of put them on and line up the fabric, but that won't give you the angle you need at the sides. So you have to follow that angle and pin it accordingly. So it's actually going to look like this when you pin it. And the other side will also bend down. So just flip it right sides together, get that angle correct, and pin it up. All right, so we're going to sew these seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I've sewn the rows together, and you can see how it's creating that coffee cup shape. So I'm going to put all my templates to the side and bring out an ironing pad. This is just a little Cricut mat. So we're going to press the seam allowances a certain way so that they fit together really nicely along these seams. So we're just gonna flip this over and press these out. So I like to kind of just go with the angle that the fabric is telling me to press if possible. So we're pressing these ones out. And we'll do the same thing here. For the top of the coffee cup, go ahead and press the seams in. That way there won't be as much bulk. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to trim some of these threads off, and then we will sew the rows together to create the block. So again, I like to lay it out, and then I'll just flip this over so I get the correct direction and everything. And we really just want to make sure that the lid is centered over the coffee cup. So sometimes our fabric might stretch a little. We're ending up with just a little bit on the edges. That's okay. So I'm going to pin it into the seam allowance so that the seam allowances stay where I want them. So they're both pressed outward, and we want them to stay that way. And then I'll do the same thing here. So you can see that the pins are going to hold those seam allowances. And then we'll just sew them together this way, and then we'll be done. So after sewing that first row on, I'm going to press this seam allowance down. And then I'll flip the next row over and sew that on.